Imagine you're a car dealer. Competition is tough, profit margins are low. When you use any help you can get, grab any straw you get your hands on, well, I have good news for you. In this video series, I'll show you how to create a digital solution that lets you offer your customers old cars to hundreds of car recyclers with just a few clicks, making it easier for them to buy a new car from you. Sounds too good to be true? Well, continue watching and you will be surprised how easy it is to automate your business. And if you're not a car dealer, well, this solution works for almost any kind of business, so stay tuned. In the previous video, we created the model-driven app to administrate car recycling shops, customers, car transportation companies, and car repairs. What we now need is a mobile app to make pictures of the damaged cars that we can send to the car recycling shops. And this can be done with the Power Apps Canvas apps. To create an app, we go to the Power Apps Studio again, and here we see our apps. But we want to create a new app, so we go to Create. And here I have many options like create a blank app from Dataverse, SharePoint, Excel, SQL, and so on. Since we have a SharePoint list, I already created some data here. We want to create the app from SharePoint. To do so, I go back to apps, and here I have different options like start with Copilot, start with data, start with the page design, or start an app with a template. In this case, we go to start with page design, and here I see different layouts of the app which I can have, and I also see the data source. Like here, this is for Dataverse, this is for SharePoint, Dataverse, and SQL Server, and this is also what I take. So here I want to take SharePoint, so I select SharePoint. It takes a moment until the SharePoint sites are available, so M365 vehicle images. And now Power Apps generates the app for me without any programming or anything I have to do. So I have a ready to use app here, and I see my two data records for the BMW cars which I already created. And I can play the app with the play button. And this is how the app looks like. On the left I have the different cars, and on the right I have the input form or also the display form for my repair. I can click on the pen to edit. I can select a new picture, and then here I can enter the repair ID. In this case, this is the repair number 1, but this can also be a different ID. Later on, we will connect this to the vehicle repair data table to get the repair IDs from a list. And I also will change it that we can select a customer first and then select the car. But for now, this is okay. So what we see here is I have different options to display it on the browser, on the tablet, PC or mobile phone. And we click on tablet PC, and I select the iPad Pro to see how the app would look like on a tablet PC. And we see it's very similar, so not so interesting here. But now I choose the iPhone 10. And I rotate this, and what catches my eye is that the image is not shown in the center. So this is what I would like to change. So I go to the edit mode, and now I have to change the position of the image. I make it less wide. I reduce the width with drag and drop like I would do in PowerPoint. And I also want to change the position from 30 to 0. So now it's on the left of this container, and I see now it's much better positioned, but it's a little to the left. So position 0 might not be the best option. So I go back again into X and I adjust it to 10. And with 10, it looks perfectly centered. If I want to look at the other picture, I have to go back, click on the second car picture, and now I get it here with the repair ID. And if I want to create a new picture, I can click on plus, and here we see the deficit of the app. The vehicle ID I have to type in manually, so I have to know the vehicle ID. And also the repair ID, and this is kind of tedious. The same goes for the repair ID, which I have to look up manually. So now we will modify the app that I can select the customer from a list, and also the vehicle ID of that customer and the repair ID that I want to document. To include the customer, I have to include the data sources, and for this I click on the database symbol here on the left, and then I have to search for the data source, And the Microsoft Power Platform offers a couple of hundred connectors to different data sources, also third-party software like SAP and many more. In this case, it's very easy. We use Dataverse, and this is on the top. And the first table we want to include is the contacts table, because we want to select the customer. So now we have the contacts table, but I also want to have the vehicle table, because I would look up vehicle identification number. I look at all tables, but this is too much, so I can search for it. So I type in vehicle and select the vehicle data table, but I also need the repair data table. So I look up for repair and include this into the Power App that I'm currently running. Now I put all the 3 tables that I need into the Power App, and before I start to continue, I'm saving the app. Better safe than sorry. So I give it a name, vehicle, picture app, and I say save. To incorporate the new tables into the app, I go to the App Explorer. On the left you see a number of objects, which are the building blocks of the app. The objects with the horizontal lines are layout containers that position the controls below each other, and the objects with the vertical lines are layout containers that position the controls next to each other. In example, on the left we see the gallery with the search field, and on the right we have the form of each record with the picture. Here we have vertical container, which contains indented horizontal container, which contains the search area and the gallery. Here on the right we have the container where we have the form, and we want to include another container on that form. To do so, I go to the hierarchy of the controls, and where are we? Okay, to get a better overview, I collapse some of the containers. This is one of the disadvantages, that you sometimes get confused where the controls are located, but the advantage is that the app resizes itself according to the screen, like we saw with the mobile phone or tablet PC. Here we have the main container and the form, and on top of this form I would like to place another container for the pictures. So I go to input, and here we have all kinds of different controls which are structured by headline. Under layout I find the containers. There are different containers, and what I want to have is the horizontal container. Now it's already there, but it's not at the position I'd like to have it, so I cut it out and paste it in back again. Now we can see, if I look at the main container, I said insert, and then the new container is below in the hierarchy of the main container, below the form. This is not the position where I want to have it. I want to have it above the form, so I go to new arrange and click on get up, and now it's up there, but it's a little high. So I look at height. Okay, height is I make 50, but it still has the flexible height, so I need to disable that, and now it has the height that I want to have it. Now I need a new control, which is the drop down box to select customer. Now I take a quick look how it looks. Okay, and I say I want to have it centered vertically, so I click on that. I also want to have a space between the different controls, and I select that. So now we have our first drop down box, but as you can see, it only shows numbers 1 to 3, but what we want to show is contacts. We go to the drop down list and look at the items. Items is the property where it takes the data, and we see here drop down sample, but this is not what you want to show. We want to show the contacts, so we delete this and type in contacts, and we see here this is already existing because we included the table contacts earlier in this video. And I also see already some values in the drop down list, like Redmond. If we click on it, we see, okay, these are obviously the cities that the customer or the contact is living at, but that's not what you want. So what we see here, we go to value, and we can change all kinds of fields that are supposed to be displayed. What we want to take is full name. Where is it? Full name. Here is it. So now we say I want McKay and sample. Now that we have the customer contact, we want to have the option to select the car the customer has. Maybe he has several cars. So what we do is we copy and paste the drop down box we created for the customer, And what we see is that Power Apps just copied the name as well and put an underscore and a 1 to the name. If you have a larger application, this is not very helpful, because then it's difficult to see or realize what control is doing what. So we have to change this, but I will do this in a later point in time. For now, we look at the app and we see, we have a new control here. For now, it shows to the contact table, but we want to have it to look to the vehicle descriptions. So we change that, vehicle descriptions, and we see it shows a column from the vehicle description. But we want to have the make first. So we go to make and select that. So we see BMW, click on play, we see the manufacturer. But at the moment we see all manufacturer. There is no dependency between the customer contact and the vehicle. So here I can select all kinds of cars, in example a Honda, but John McKay maybe has not a Honda. So I look into the data set record. Yes, Yvonne McKay, she has BMW, but not a Honda. So what we need now is to create a relationship between the vehicle description table and the contact. And this we do with the filter function. Filter, vehicle description, and now we need a condition. And the condition is contact ID that links the vehicle description table to the contact table. So for this we type in contact and we see contact ID is already in the proposal list. And now we have to link it to the contact table, and for that we use the value of the drop-down list we created before, drop down 1, and take the selected item like Yvonne McKay, and I select the contact. But here we have a mismatch because contact ID is a lookup field, so I need to reference from the lookup to the table to the correct column, table column, which is contact in this case. And if you take a look at the original table in the form, we see, okay, contact ID, look up, as I just said, and it looks up Yvonne McKay, and the corresponding column to the drop-down is contact. And we see this here, the drop-down 1 is green, which reflects, shows, okay, drop-down 1 is this one. That makes it easier to identify it while we are programming. And if I go on play, I see now I can only select BMW because that is a car that Yvonne McKay has. Now I want to include my repair ID to assign the pictures to the repair. And I see there's not enough space for a third drop-down box. So I go to properties, width of the contacts, and I resize it to 200. And I do the same for the vehicle description, send it to 100, and now I have enough space for a third drop down. But I see Yvonne McKay, I cannot read the full name, so this might be a bit small. So I go again to width of this drop down, give it a 250, and I'm good to go. Now I copy and paste the drop down like before, and I have my third drop down here. Like before, it references to the vehicle description table that I don't want to. So I comment it out with 2 slashes, and I can select the new table, vehicle repair data. And I see this already here in the drop-down list. If I click on play, I see now columns from the repair data table, but I see all repair and I see mileage, which I did not want to see. So let's see what is a good column to show in this drop-down. And we see the repair date. The repair date makes perfect sense because the customer comes in on a certain repair date with his car, and then I take the photos. So I take this as a selection criteria. As we see here, now I have the date. We see the date without formatting, so I have the date and the time. And I could format this here and make it much nicer, but in this demo, we built the minimum viable product, a basic version just to show that it works. In a future point in time, we could make this much nicer and work better, but at this point in time, it is okay for me. If I look here, I see all the repair data appointments. But what I want is, of course, a filter on Yvonne McKay's repair date. So we go back into the edit and copy the filter statement from earlier because it's from the mechanic the same. So we cut out the vehicle repair data table, replace it with the vehicle description table. Contact ID, this is not the right match anymore because we are add repair data table. So we say vehicle ID, and contact doesn't fit as well. So what we need is column vehicle description. This is the primary key of the vehicle description table. Now I don't want to link to the dropdown 1, but on 1.1. And now we see how stupid it was to give the drop-down boxes not proper names, because I don't know from the code what dropdown 1.1 means. But I see with the gray in underline that is meant the vehicle description. Now I have to change the contact to vehicle description, which is the primary key, and I can delete the old code and hit on play to see. Now I only see repair appointment that are valid for the selected car. But like before, we see the column is not the right one, it's mileage. But what I want to see is the repair date. So I have to manually adapt that, which is a kind of pain in the, because every time you change the data source, you have to realign the column that is displayed in the drop-down list. So now I only get shown the repair date that is valid for this car, which is just one repair date. Now that I have all three drop-downs for customer, car, and vehicle ID, I want to assign them to the vehicle ID and repair ID. And to do so, I have in the drop-down certain events, like on select, on change. In this case, we take the on select event, and instead of false, we write some code. I would like to prefer to set the value directly to vehicle ID, but in this case, we have to go through variables. This is done with set. We give the variable name, vehicle ID, and then we give it a value. And the value we get from dropdown 1.1, and select it and the variable vehicle ID. Then we type two semicolons. That's the German writing way. And we need a second variable, which is not vehicle but repair ID. And then we give it to take the value from the dropdown 1_2. And this is quite nice. We see with the different color coding which dropdown belongs to what. So although we have not very good names, we can see what dropdown is referred to and select values from there. So here we want to have the repair ID, which is part of the data collection. Now I have to close the bracket, and we are done at this part. Now I want to assign the variable values to the form, and if you look at the input field, we see a property called default, and it's set to parent.default, and parent is form number 1. And here as data source I see the vehicle images, so our SharePoint list. Now I can say, okay, I just overwrite this and type in my variable vehicle ID, and my vehicle ID is shown. And if I go and play, I see, okay, there's my vehicle ID from the drop-down list. But this is not the whole truth. Like if I go to different vehicles, I always see the same vehicle number, because this is the value in the variable. So I have to make it more sophisticated to show the appropriate vehicle ID. As we can see, the input field is part of form 1, and form 1 has a property which is called default mode. And here we have a function which says if new mode, then do this, if edit mode, do that. And this new mode is a variable from Power Apps, a system variable that indicates in which mode the form is. And we take this formula and copy it to our text input field in the default property, like we have here. And then we modify it to our satisfaction. So for new mode, I would like to input the variable from the drop-down list. And on edit mode, I would like to say take the values from the record before, which is parent.default. As we can see now, we have the vehicle number 1, which is the current selected vehicle, which is fine. And if I click on edit, I still see the vehicle number 1, because this is the record we are editing an existing record. And if I go to new to select to create a new record, I select the customer, Yvonne McKay. Okay, this is vehicle number 1. She has the BMW. But if I say Mariah Campbell and pick the appointment, then I see vehicle number 2, because her vehicle, the Honda, has vehicle ID number 2. I selected the owner, the car and the repair appointment, and then I got shown the vehicle ID. And the same thing we do for the vehicle repair ID, and to do so we just copy and paste the default property of the vehicle ID, paste it into the default property of the repair ID, and replace the variable vehicle ID with repair ID. And as we can see, now we have repair ID number 4. I save it. I like to save in between manually, because then I get a new version. So if I do something wrong, I mess something up, I can do a rollback, and the more versions I have, the more rollbacks I can do. The more fine granularly I can do rollbacks. And now, as we see, we have here vehicle and repair ID. So now I select some pictures and have a new entry with vehicle ID number 2 and repair ID number 4. Now we are actually finished with the app, but I would like to take a look, how does it look on my smartphone, because the idea is to upload the images from the smartphone. So I go to the smartphone view, and what I see here, I can select the customer, the contact, Maria Campbell in this case. The car is difficult to select, and it's impossible to select the repair appointment. So I go back. What I can do is I activate line break so that the controls will be displayed one below the other, and I see Honda. Okay, this is what I can see, and probably customer is on top of it, which is invisible, and repair appointment is also visible. So that's not it yet. Then the next thing I can do, I can activate the flexible height of the container, and if I look in the mobile app, I see the controls are now below each other, but I also have a lot of space above and below the control. And which is also very annoying is that I have to scroll now a lot to see the picture and everything. So this is not the right solution yet. And if you look on it, we see the form and the container are content of container in the hierarchy one above, and that container splits the space 50 by 50 between the form and the container we just gave flexible height. So giving the flexible height doesn't work, so we put it back, and we have to create a flexible height in a different way. And this is in the height property. We say if app width is 540, and that's a number I tested, which works very well for mobile devices. So if app width is higher than 540, I want to have it a height of 50 like before. But if the app width is 540 or less, I want to take the height of dropdown 1, which is dropdown 1.height. And then I add the other drop downs here. So I copy and paste first the dropdown 1 value to make it more visible that I add the heights of all 3 drop downs. I rename them and take the original height, although they have the same height altogether. So this is dropdown 1_2. And then I want to have a kind of spacer, which is 60, that it's not too dense below each other. And as we can see here, the screen width is higher than 540, so I still have the same layout. But if I go on my mobile phone, I see that the layout changed. I have the 3 drop downs below each other. What we see now, that the drop down for vehicle and for repair date are having a different width, so we need to fix that it all looks the same. And for that we take the width of the largest, which is 250, and paste it to the width of the other drop downs, and we are good to go. Now I see it's too far on the left, so I want to have a space there, and I go back to editing and change the property for left and type in 20. And as you can see, the controls moved to the right, and we have also a space of 20 here. If you look down here, we see for the vehicle ID there's a lot of space reserved, which we don't need. So this is not so nice, so we won't change that. And if you look at it, the data card takes so much space, 128. So we change this to 60. And we also change the size of the vehicle repair ID data card. And we see here, okay, it already needs less space, and I can see the vehicle ID, the picture, and the repair ID at the same time without scrolling. And if I click on edit, I can change the vehicle ID, but this is not necessary since we already got the vehicle ID from the drop-down controls above. Then I can change the picture and give it a new picture like this, and can save the phone, can go back, and then I see that the picture has changed. Then I enter a new record. I say I want McKay, shares a BMW, repair appointment. Then I give a picture, say store, and I see that a new record has been added. So this is it for the app. In this video, we have a complete mobile app, which is also responsive, so you can use it on any device with the right screen size. Again, this is just a minimum viable product, and in future videos we will extend it more. This is it. We finished the development of the mobile app. Please keep in mind that this is only a minimum viable product of the app to illustrate how little effort is necessary to create a fully functioning mobile app. Of course, to put the app in production, you would make it more convenient to use and add functionality. What is still missing to automate the business process with a few clicks is the Power Automate flow. And this is exactly what we will create in the next video. So please subscribe and click the bell that you don't miss any videos that will boost your business.